I counted. I got on Amazon and counted the number of, and just very quickly counted the number of opportunities to buy something with your name on it, and I think I stopped at 57. But I know those are all kinds of things, including essays. But how many actual books have you completed since you started writing them?
Oh my goodness! I've been asked that question. I've never actually counted them. Partly because it depends on what you mean. There are books that are original books. There are books that are collections of previous writings, and so on. And there are monographs and so forth. But I've never really tried to keep track. But it's a few dozen.
At this point, which one of all those books sold the most?
Oh heavens! Basic Economics not only sells the most in English. It's been translated into 7 or 8 languages.
What would you say would be the most important thing, and I know this is a simple question, most important thing or things that people who read that book will learn?
Oh my gosh, that is tough. But I guess they'll learn what economics is all about, which is more than just the sum of the topics. And in the first chapter, I point out that economics really, I elaborate on a definition from London School of Economics, that economics is the study of scarce resources which have alternative uses. In other words, there was no economics in the Garden of Eden because everything was available in unlimited quantities. But I think in thinking generally, whether in economics or otherwise, too many people do not begin by saying, what are the inherent constraints of the situation we're talking about? And they act as if they're God on the first day of creation and can follow whatever policy seems to them best. But by the time when each of us enters a world that is already completely elaborated and complex before we ever got here, and so you make your decisions within that context. And if you don't think of it that way, you can have all sorts of utopian notions. To give one obvious example, I hear from time to time people complain, that George Washington, Thomas Jefferson condoned slavery. Slavery was there for centuries before George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were ever born. And neither of them thought that the office of the presidency had any power to do anything about it. Lincoln was able to do something about it because he did so not simply as president, but as the commander-in-chief in a war. And what he did applied only to people who were in rebellion against the United States. But there was no basis otherwise. And so if you can't think in terms of what were the things confronting the people who made decisions, nothing is easier than to sit there today and say, oh, this should have been done, that should have been done. And that's not taking the past as it was. It's treating the past as if it's just the present taking place in earlier times. And that is not the case.
When Yale University took the name John Calhoun off of one of their buildings, what was your reaction?
Oh my gosh. By this time I had given up all hope for the academic world, and so practically nothing surprises me anymore. If we're going to again look retrospectively, whatever reason his name was put on there, it was there. And I don't know anything that has happened since then has made Calhoun any better or any worse than he was when that decision was made. If you're going to go back, the first that you're so desperate for grievances that you have to go back into history to find them, that really says something.
We talked about the impact of Vietnam and Watergate on the country. What about the impact of slavery on the country?
Great, and in any number of ways. But the question is, the thing that always gets me is that the past, whatever it is, good, bad, or terrible, it's irrevocable. And the only thing we have any influence over are the present and the future. And nothing that we do. I was so pained to learn that apparently Angela Merkel in Germany felt the need to take in these refugees in order to help Germany live down the terrible record of Hitler. Nothing is ever going to change what Hitler did. Nothing. All you can do is do things that are going to have an effect in the present and the future. And the effects that her policies are having in the present have been disastrous. And there's no reason to believe that they're going to be any less disastrous in the future.